first thing, Bill, that we're going to look at is your putting stroke as we compare it from our first session and our last session. The picture of you on the left is from our last session, and the one on the right is from your first session. The one on the right was the way you putted before we worked on any changes. And then the one on the left is after you started working on the one change that we focused on, which was holding your finish after the stroke. Well, let's take a look at that fundamental and how well that's going. Take the club back. Like you have a nice shoulder swing. You're not wristy. Backswing goes about to the back foot. Keeping your posture, you're keeping your wrists solid, swinging your arms and shoulders. Follow through is just a little bit longer than your backswing, which is very good. But you are turning your head. You're starting to lift just a little bit, and you're also starting to pull the putter back. You have what we call a recoil. You don't hold your finish for a very long period of time. That's the one thing that we talked about working on. As we look now at your, from our last session, after working on this, putting through, everything looks solid, your head is still down. Head is still down. You're holding your finish. And you don't turn until after the pose. So that's the only other thing I'd like to comment on your putting is that one of the things that you did really well when I first saw you is you had really good setup and posture. You can tell from the one on the right, this is when I first met with you, you have a lot more tilt in your posture. You're tilted over the ball more, and now you're more upright. You're not tilted over as much. It doesn't appear to did not film you from down the line, which I wish I had done. I could see that posture a little bit better, but it seems obvious to me from looking at this face-on view that you had a better tilted posture in July than you did in our last session. So somehow, as you tried to develop and work on this stroke where you try to hold your finish, as you worked on that, you subconsciously developed a posture that's more upright. You're standing taller, and you lost the good posture that you had in July. So as you study these pictures, I would, even in your living room, try to get this posture back that you had before. That's a really good posture, but learn how to swing and hold, putt and hold the finish just for a moment or two, but do it from this really good posture. Look at your chipping and pitching action from July compared to your last session in August. The one on the right is the one from your first session in July. The one on the left is from our last session. First thing I want to point out is your setup is much better now. Before, you had too many angles in your left side. Your left arm was not straight. You had an angle. You had your hands almost on top of the golf ball, and you had an angle bent left arm, and did not have a straight line from the shoulder to the ball. And this is so much better now. And you've worked on getting your hands forward. You have a shaft lean. That allows you to hit down on the chip shot, which is a requirement for good chipping. You have the ball back in your stance a little bit which is good because that makes it so much easier to get your hands in front of the golf ball. So that's very good. Look at your chipping action that you employed before we began working on your technique. This was back in July from our first session. You had a tendency to swat through the ball and immediately recoil and come back. Okay, now let's take a look at your chipping action. And I've already commented about this is your chipping action from our last session in July. I've already commented how good your setup is, where your hands are forward and you have that shaft lean. You were doing some practice of holding that finish. Let's take a look at that. You're holding the finish. Holding the finish. So you are holding the finish extremely well. You're not recoiling. You're on your left side. I will add that I did observe the shots that you were actually hitting onto the green, and because you had consistent length of follow through, because your club arrived at the same similar position, that basically created the same amount of or equal and consistent force through the ball. And I noticed that all of those balls tended to be clustered in similar distance away from you. So there is a correlation between this form and the performance. From our last session in August, now we need to remember that we had a session between the July video session and this session where I didn't video that much, but we worked mostly on the grip change, and I'm seeing here a much better grip position. Your left hand is over. Setup looks really good. This is going to be your practice swing, and let's take a look at that. You're much more on the left side here. The only thing I would add is that one of the things that you do have or did have in your July swing is a more complete follow through, where your elbows fold and your hands get behind your head. Here you now have kind of an abbreviated stop of the follow through, and you don't continue swinging your hands in a circle around your head. I've commented on how your practice swing has a more fundamentally sound look to it, has better form in the key positions than your ball swing. Let's look at those two swings side by side. The one on the left is your practice swing, and the one on the right is your ball swing. These are at impact, and you can see that on the left here, where you're not swinging at a golf ball and you're not thinking about hitting the ball, but just swinging comfortably and naturally. You have a nice extension in your arms, versus on your ball swing, these are a little bit tighter. This left arm in particular has a lot of angles in it, and you're kind of pulling your elbows away from each other. The other thing to notice is your weight shift on your natural, comfortable practice swing. You have moved your weight a lot more to the right. You can see how this leg is angled more here. This leg has a little bit of an angle. You're shifting more to the target. Your ball swing, you're a little bit more flat-footed. You haven't really moved over to the left side that much. Now let's follow this swing. Let's follow your ball swing through the impact. As we go on through, you can see how this elbow here is coming away. So that elbow is flying away from the left side. That's what we call a chicken wing. So we continue that through. And you can also see how this left hand is above your right hand. Now we look at your practice swing. Your wrists have crisscrossed. The left hand, the white glove, is below the other hand. Your elbows are very close together, not separating. Also, your practice swing, your right hip and right knee move closer to the left leg. You've rotated your hips around toward the target more. You're kind of hanging back on your ball swing. So the golf swing that you need to learn is one you already know. You know how to move your body the correct way. You do it every single time you take a practice swing. What we need to work on is how to create that bridge, that mental bridge where you can execute that swing when there's a golf ball there. And there are some drills to help us do that. And that's what we'll be working on as we continue to improve your golf swing.